In the small town where Wendy was born, she was nicknamed Barbie almost from birth. The name suited her remarkably well. She looked very much like a doll, blonde, slightly curly hair, blue eyes framed by long black eyelashes, and a beautifully outlined mouth with a delicate mole above her upper lip. Despite her doll-like appearance, Wendy was a kind-hearted child who easily got along with both children and adults and was always ready to help. Her childhood, however, was far from easy and carefree. Wendy's story was somewhat reminiscent of Cinderella's life, though she was luckier with her stepmother. When Wendy was 9, her mother died in an accident. Her father, Ashton, did not lose hope but seemed to age overnight and devoted himself to caring for his daughter with renewed effort. However, deep down, he understood that Wendy found it difficult without her mother, and as she grew older, she would increasingly feel the lack of female guidance. So, when Wendy's teacher, Paloma, began to show interest in Ashton a year after his wife's death, he didn't resist much. Paloma was a mature, intelligent woman, respected for her character and willpower. She raised her 2 daughters alone after kicking out her perpetually drunken husband who had hit her during one of his binges. Paloma could endure many things, but she couldn't tolerate abuse. That same evening, her husband's belongings were thrown out the window. Of course, raising 2 daughters on a teacher's small salary was tough, but she remained undaunted. The entire town watched Ashton and Paloma's relationship develop. Even the most notorious gossips fell silent and genuinely wished them happiness. 7 months later, Ashton and Paloma married, and she moved in with him. Ashton hoped his new wife would not replace Wendy's mother but would become a reliable friend to her. However, this did not happen. Wendy and her stepmother had a decent relationship, but it couldn't be called a friendship. Wendy kept her at a distance, and Paloma didn't try to get closer to her stepdaughter. She didn't mistreat Wendy, but it was clear she didn't love her. This attitude showed in various small ways. For example, once the whole family went shopping. Ashton stayed in the car to wait for the girls, thinking that shopping for women's clothes wasn't his thing, while Paloma took the girls to buy outfits. She bought new clothes for everyone but only let her own daughters choose, try on, and admire themselves in the mirror. Wendy got whatever was left. Does it fit? Is it too tight? Paloma would ask, peeking into the fitting room where Wendy was. If it fits, we'll take it. But the dress is too big, Wendy would try to protest. Look, the sleeve is hanging. Don't make things up, nothing is hanging, Paloma would shake her head. And if it is a little big, it's not a problem. It'll fit perfectly in a month. Anyway, we're taking it. Change and let's go, we still need to stop by a couple of more stores. Wendy obediently changed and followed her stepmother. There was no joy in the purchase. When they returned to the car, her father, seeing her sad face, always asked, "Wendy, what's wrong? Did something happen?" "No, Dad. Everything's fine, I'm just tired," Wendy would reply, turning to look out the window. She never complained to her father about Paloma. Wendy saw that her dad had come back to life a bit after the woman entered their home, and she didn't want to break that fragile happiness. Moreover, Wendy thought it was silly to complain to her father that Paloma loved her daughters more than her. "You can't force someone to love you," wise little Wendy would reason as she fell asleep, hugging the teddy bear her mother had given her. Time passed, and Wendy blossomed even more. Her figure became attractively shaped, and the baby fat on her face disappeared. Her now slim face made her eyes seem even deeper, and her lips incredibly alluring. But Wendy paid no attention to her appearance or the increased interest from boys. She made her father proud with her school achievements, helped around the house, and learned to sew. Now, even the most unsuccessful outfits Paloma bought her were turned into interesting clothes. Her classmates envied Wendy's unique dresses and blouses, and when someone asked her to do something interesting with their clothes, she happily obliged. Soon, word spread around town about Wendy's sewing skills. Adult women started coming to her, asking for alterations. Wendy didn't refuse and soon even began earning money for her work. Soon Wendy will finish school, Paloma mused over dinner one night, and she'll go to study to be a seamstress. Then she can raise her prices, she clearly has a talent. Of course, Paloma was being disingenuous with this conversation. She cared little for Wendy's talent or desires. She was only interested in the well-being of her own daughters. Paloma thought that if her stepdaughter started earning money, she could spend more on her own girls. However, she didn't consider that Wendy had her own plans, which she voiced clearly during the discussion. "I don't want to be a seamstress," Wendy said. "I dream of becoming a doctor, like Mom. And I will go to college in Boston." "A doctor? Do you know how long you need to study for that? How much effort and money it takes?" Paloma asked. "I know," Wendy replied quietly but stubbornly. "I'm ready to put in the effort, and I'll save up the money. Or I'll study and work at the same time. I'll figure something out." "Figure something out? Did you ask us? Maybe we think you should be a seamstress." "Well, tell her, Ashton." Ashton, who always agreed with his wife, acted unexpectedly this time. He stood up and, slamming his palm on the table, said loudly, "If Wendy wants to be a doctor, then that's what she'll be. She has dreamed of this since childhood, and Haley, her mother, would be happy that her daughter decided to follow in her footsteps. Ashton, but for that, Wendy will have to go to another city. We don't have a medical college here. Where will she live there? What will she eat? Just think how much money that will take." Paloma said. "Paloma, I've said all I need to say." Ashton looked sternly at his wife. "And the money? I have some savings, I'll give them to Wendy. She'll have enough. Wendy will have enough, but have you thought about my daughters? Shelley and Grace need to eat too, and they'll soon be going to college. They. Paloma, what do Shelley and Grace have to do with this? Do they lack food, clothes? Their closets are full of clothes, and they still ask for more. And another thing. The money I'm giving Wendy will not affect your or your daughter's well-being. Do you understand? Can we consider this matter settled?" Paloma, looking displeased, nodded. She knew the size of her husband's stash and very much did not want those funds to slip through her fingers. For the next few days after that conversation, Paloma was beside herself. She barely spoke to her husband and glared angrily at Wendy. Even Grace and Shelley bore the brunt of their mother's frustration. But then Paloma came up with what she thought was a brilliant plan. After pondering the details for a couple of days, she started to soften her husband up, knowing that with the right approach, Ashton would give in and listen to her. "Ashton," Paloma began one evening as they lay in bed, "are you sure Wendy needs to go to medical school in Boston?" "Because." "Paloma, don't start," Ashton said, frowning. "We've already discussed this. I've made my decision, period." Of course, of course. You're the man, you decide," Paloma said sweetly. "But hear me out. Maybe she doesn't need to go that far for college. There's a medical college in the neighboring town, she could study there. What difference does it make?" "I don't understand," Ashton said, puzzled. "Just listen to me, and you'll see," Paloma continued, gently stroking her husband's shoulder. "I have a small apartment in that town," she went on, conveniently omitting that the apartment was in a very old building with neighbors who were local drunks. Paloma had tried to sell that apartment, but no one would buy it even at a minimal price. So, she kept it. Now she remembered it, deciding she could send her stepdaughter there. Paloma hoped to accomplish two things: save her husband's stash of money and show how caring she was, how much she loved Wendy. But, of course, she didn't voice these thoughts. Instead, she said, Wendy could go to medical college and live in that apartment. Later, if she still wants to become a doctor, she can move to Boston. "Well, I don't know," Ashton said. She really wanted to go to Boston. "Besides, don't rush with your decision," Paloma continued. Just think about it. If Wendy studies nearby, we can always visit and help her. If she goes to Boston, we'll only be able to talk on the phone. Ashton didn't reply, but Paloma could tell from his face that she had planted doubts in his mind. That was all she needed. She kept subtly reinforcing her point daily until she got her way. Shortly before Wendy's final exams, Ashton called his daughter for a serious talk. "I've been thinking, Wendy. Maybe you shouldn't go to Boston," he began calmly. "Dad," Wendy said, alarmed, "you know I dream of becoming a doctor and helping people," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "Wendy, I'm not saying you shouldn't help people," Ashton reassured her. "I'm just suggesting that instead of going to Boston, you could go to the medical college in the neighboring town. Become a nurse, work for a bit, and stay in Paloma's small apartment there." Wendy wanted to protest but realized that arguing was pointless. Besides, her father had a point. She had already looked at the requirements for Boston and was almost certain she wouldn't get in. Her chances of getting into the college in the neighboring town were much higher. Paloma was thrilled that her plan had worked. Only one thing worried her: Ashton planned to personally take Wendy to her new home, and Paloma knew that the apartment and the overall condition of the place would likely displease him. Paloma was very nervous as Wendy loaded her bags into her father's car. The woman paced around, trying to think of an excuse to dissuade her husband from making the trip, but when she couldn't come up with anything, she threw up her hands and decided to resign herself to fate. Luck, however, was on Paloma's side. Just as Ashton and Wendy were driving into town, Ashton received a phone call. There had been an emergency at the factory where he worked, and he had to go in immediately. "Wendy, you won't mind if I can't take you all the way, right?" Ashton said, handing his daughter the keys to the apartment and a substantial amount of money. "I need to get to work urgently." "It's okay, Dad." "I understand," Wendy replied, trying to hide her disappointment. "That's good. Don't worry, I'll get you a taxi and you call me as soon as you settle in." "I love you," Ashton said. He put her in a taxi and gave the driver the address. Ashton was in such a hurry that he didn't notice the driver's grimace when he heard the destination. Wendy sat in the back seat, clutching her bag tightly, unaware of what awaited her. As the taxi drew closer to Wendy's new home, her heart sank. When the car stopped in front of a shabby building, the driver turned to her and asked, "Are you sure your father got the address right?" Wendy pulled out the slip of paper Paloma had given her and read the address aloud. "Then this is definitely it," the driver said. "If you need to go anywhere, take this." He handed her a homemade business card. "Take care, you seem like a nice girl. Why they sent you to this dump, I don't know. Good luck." "Thank you," Wendy said, almost in tears, realizing she was in for a tough time. The kind driver helped her unload her suitcase from the trunk and drove off, leaving a cloud of dust behind. Wendy sighed heavily, grabbed her things, and, holding the door with one foot, entered the building. As soon as the heavy door slammed shut behind her, one of the apartment doors opened. A woman in her 60s stepped out and shouted in a harsh voice. "Who are you? Another doll for Mitch? I won't allow it. This isn't a brothel. Get out of here." She brandished a towel threateningly. Wendy backed away, and the woman smirked. "What are you staring at?" the woman asked. "Take your things and leave." Wendy felt uneasy but knew she couldn't return home that night. She had to go to the college first thing in the morning to submit her documents and find out about exams. Gathering all her courage, she said loudly, "Why should I leave? I'm here to live in apartment 5. I even have a key." Wendy quickly pulled out the keys and shook them in the air. "Apartment 5, the woman said thoughtfully, calming down. "Are you related to Sybil?" "Sybil? I don't know any Sybil. Paloma gave me the keys." "Paloma? That witch? She's either Sybil's niece or granddaughter. What did you do to deserve being sent here by Paloma?" "Never mind, you can tell me later," the woman said, waving her hand. For now, let's get acquainted. I'm Mila, the heart of this building. I've lived here for many years. Come on, I'll show you to your apartment. Mila deftly grabbed Wendy's suitcase and walked quickly ahead. Wendy hurried after her, realizing she could manage one night here, but no more. I have to call Dad and tell him this place is awful, Wendy thought as she walked down the hallway. Here's your apartment, Mila said, pointing to the door. Wendy stared at the shabby door, then carefully unlocked it. The door creaked ominously, and the smell of dust and old clothes wafted out. Wait here. I'll open a window so you don't suffocate from the smell, Mila said, stepping inside confidently. As she went, Mila turned on the light, allowing Wendy to see her new home. The small apartment contained an old bed, a large wardrobe, and a nightstand, all covered with a thick layer of dust. The girl sighed heavily, realizing that before she could stay in the room for the night, she would have to give it a thorough cleaning. Sighing again, Wendy took out her phone and dialed her father's number. She wanted to ask him to take her back home because she was not ready to stay in such conditions. But her father's phone was turned off, and Wendy didn't know what to do. Well, what do you think? Not to your liking? Mila asked. I don't even know how I'm going to spend the night here, Wendy said, almost in tears. I wanted to call my dad to come get me, but his phone is off. I could take a bus home, but by the time I get there, it will be time to come back. I have to go to college tomorrow. I came here to enroll. So, why are you so upset? Mila said, putting her hands on her hips and shaking her head. Do you think Mila will leave you in trouble? Not a chance. It's the first time in a long while I've seen a decent person in this dump. What's your name, dear? Wendy, the girl replied quietly. A wonderful name. Listen to me, Wendy. You'll stay in my room tonight. I have a spare bed. I lost Lyle 3 years ago, he died from alcohol, the woman explained. And if you decide to stay here, I'll help you get the apartment in order. Know this, I won't let anyone harm you. Mila can spot good people right away, and I like you. Thank you, Wendy said with a smile. She grabbed her things, locked the apartment, and followed Mila down the corridor. Mila's apartment wasn't much bigger than Wendy's new place, but the atmosphere was completely different. It was immediately clear that the apartment's owner was a kind and sensitive woman, and the roughness with which she had greeted Wendy was just a facade, a shield to protect herself from being hurt by malicious people. Wendy and Mila spent the rest of the day drinking tea in the kitchen, sharing their life stories. For the first time since her mother's death, Wendy felt genuine interest in her life from someone else. She felt like opening up to Mila and told her about Paloma and her daughters, who often teased Wendy cruelly, and about how her father had become distant. Wendy talked and talked, letting out her feelings, her pain, and her grievances. Mila also shared her difficult life story with Wendy. She had fled here from a wealthy husband who would beat her when he got very angry. At that time, Mila had a 1-year-old son, Tommy, whom she had to raise alone. When Tommy grew up, Mila started dating Lyle. He seemed like a good, reliable man at first, but after 3 years of living together, he began to drink. Initially, he drank only on weekends, then twice a week, then 3 times, and eventually, every day. Drunk Lyle was kind and affectionate, never hit or insulted her, which is probably why Mila tolerated him. Then Tommy joined the army and was sent to serve on the other side of the country. Mila worried a lot, but there was nothing she could do. Her son found a wife there and no longer needed his mother. Tommy now calls me once a year, Mila finished her story sadly. When Lyle was alive, at least I had someone to talk to. He drank a lot, but he would always listen and support me. And now? I don't get along with the neighbors, they're all hopeless cases. But at least now you're here. I got to pour my heart out to you, and it made me feel better, she said, smiling through her tears. Wendy, who had been listening intently, suddenly got up and gave Mila a tight hug. In that moment, they both felt a connection, thinking that fate had probably brought them together for a reason. "Mila," Wendy said, "I'm going to call my dad now, and then we should get some sleep. It's getting late. Go ahead and call him." "I'll make up the bed for you," Mila replied. "Thank you," Wendy smiled as she stepped out into the hall. Wendy dialed her father's number. His phone was off, and she felt her anxiety growing. She tried her stepmother's number, but there was no answer. Shelley and Grace's numbers also went unanswered. "Maybe they're asleep," Wendy said aloud, trying to calm herself as the worry inside her grew. The next few days, Wendy was busy with college application documents and preparing for exams. She had no time to go back to her hometown. Her father still hadn't called. So, Wendy kept dialing his number and also tried reaching Paloma, Grace, and Shelley. Finally, on the third day, Paloma answered. "Hello," Wendy said. "How are you? How is Dad? Why hasn't he answered my calls?" Paloma said something, but Wendy could barely make it out. The line was filled with terrible interference, noise, and static. She managed to catch only part of her stepmother's words. Paloma said they were all fine, and her father was busy with work, which is why he hadn't called. "Please tell him to call me. I need to talk to him," Wendy said loudly, hoping Paloma understood her. "Can you hear me?" But the line was silent. Wendy looked at her phone screen, the call was still connected. So, she repeated her request and ended the call, hoping Paloma had heard her and would pass the message to her father. "That's it, I'm going back today," Wendy said to Mila. "I finished my last exam, and the results won't be out for 2 weeks. I need to find out what's going on at home. I've been here for so long, and Dad hasn't called even once. His phone is off, and Paloma and the girls aren't answering. I'm really worried." "Of course, go check on your family," Mila said. "But don't stress yourself out too much. I can see you're upset. Your dad probably is just busy with work and hasn't had time to call. Men can be like that," she added with a forced smile, though she felt uneasy. Mila couldn't believe that a man could simply forget about his daughter, especially one who had left home for the first time. From Wendy's stories, she understood that Ashton was a good man. Perhaps a bit too soft, influenced by his new wife, and often giving in to her, but he genuinely loved his daughter. So, when Mila heard that Ashton hadn't called Wendy in such a long time, she grew worried but didn't want to scare the girl. What if she was wrong and everything was fine? Don't worry about anything," Mila said. "I'll keep an eye on the apartment. And later, I'll help you put up the new wallpaper." "You don't have to," Wendy objected. "What if I don't get into college and don't live here?" "Don't live here?" Mila was surprised. "Then why did we buy the wallpaper and glue?" she said, throwing her hands up. "But honestly, I think everything will be fine. You'll get in, and you'll live here. Believe me, it's not the worst place in the world." "Thank you," Wendy said with a smile. "For what?" "For your kindness, support, and faith." "Thank you," Wendy stood up and kissed Mila on the cheek. "Oh, enough, enough," Mila waved her hands, embarrassed, trying to hide her tears. Wendy approached her childhood home as dusk fell. She immediately noticed that her father's car, usually parked in the same spot, was missing. "Strange," she muttered, shrugging her shoulders. "Dad is usually home by now." She walked through the gate, approached the house, and tried the door, but it was locked. "I don't understand," Wendy mumbled in confusion. The door was only locked at night, so this was unexpected. Still puzzled, she walked over to the window and knocked loudly before returning to the door. After a few minutes, she heard footsteps and then her stepmother's voice. "Who is it?" "It's me," Wendy called out. "Who?" Paloma asked from behind the door. "Wendy. What are you doing here?" Paloma grumbled as she finally opened the door. Wendy entered, trying to ignore her stepmother's displeasure. "Is Dad not here?" What's wrong with his phone? I've been calling him, but he's not answering. And none of you were picking up either. Grace, Shelley, why? Can you be quiet for a minute? Paloma snapped. You come in and start with 1,000 questions. What? Why? How? Who are you to ask me anything? She suddenly screamed. Wendy stood there, blinking in shock, unable to understand what was happening with her stepmother. Paloma had never been kind or gentle, but she had never screamed like this. Shaking off her shock, Wendy asked. Where's Dad? Where? Something terrible happened to your father. Paloma yelled. What? What happened to him? He had an accident, Paloma said, sinking into a chair. Is he dead? Wendy whispered, her voice failing her. What? No, you idiot. Though, maybe it would have been better if he was. What are you saying? Explain what happened properly. Wendy's shout seemed to have a strange effect on Paloma. She stopped her hysterics and, in a monotone voice, explained what had happened to Ashton. He was on his way to work from your place, rushing. At the turn right before the factory, you know it, some reckless driver overtook him. He must not have known the road makes a sharp turn there. Anyway, this fool lost control, tried to correct his car, and crashed right into Ashton. Paloma paused, then added, I don't know exactly what happened, but 3 cars were involved. The reckless driver got away with just a few scratches, but your father is in critical condition in the hospital. And there was a whole family in the other car, all of them injured too. It's awful, Paloma sobbed. But why? Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me? I would have come, I would have. Would have what? Paloma asked coldly. What would you have done? Sat here and cried? That would have been helpful. How is Dad now? Wendy asked. Better. I called the hospital yesterday, and they said he's regained consciousness, so he's going to live, Paloma shrugged. You called? You didn't visit him? Wendy was surprised. I did visit. But I can't go every day, I have things to do. Work, home, Shelley and Grace. Besides, he's under the doctor's care. Why visit him every day? How can you say that? He's your husband. He. Listen, girl, Paloma snapped angrily. Don't lecture me about what I can or can't do. I'm a person too, and I can get tired. You don't get to tell me how to live. Got it? Yeah, Wendy nodded, feeling a burning hatred for her stepmother in that moment. Wendy had never felt such emotions towards Paloma before, even when she was mean to her. But now, hearing the disdain in her stepmother's voice when talking about her father, Wendy was overwhelmed with a wave of anger. Controlling her emotions, she asked. Which hospital is Dad in? Can I visit him? He's at St. George's. Visiting hours start at 10, Paloma said, clearly indicating the conversation was over. Her stepmother walked away, leaving Wendy sitting on the chair, trying to process the information she had just received. It wasn't even 10 yet, but Wendy was already at the hospital, asking the receptionist how to get to her father. The woman reluctantly answered her questions, hinting that Wendy was too young to visit alone. I'm 17, Wendy fumed, but the woman just shrugged indifferently. Wendy, came a familiar voice. You look so much like your mom, the woman continued, and Wendy, hearing the mention of her mom, turned sharply. Aunt Chloe? Is that you? Wendy said, squinting at the woman's face. Yes, it's me. You recognized me? I recognized you right away, even though we haven't seen each other since Haley's funeral. You've become so much like her. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up. How are you? How's your dad? What are you doing in the hospital? Are you sick? Come to my office, and tell me everything, Chloe said, grabbing Wendy's hand and pulling her down the corridor. Do you work here? Was all the bewildered girl could ask. Yes, for almost a year. Aaron retired from the military, and he convinced me to move back to our hometown. I found a job at the hospital quickly, and now we're here. Wendy nodded along with Chloe's words. She remembered her as a younger woman. Chloe used to visit with her husband and children. She was her mom's friend, but after her mom passed away, Chloe's family moved to another city. Everything in Wendy's life changed then, it all became gray. Memories flooded her mind, and to shake off the sadness, Wendy asked loudly. Chloe, can you help me? Of course, sweetheart, Chloe said, becoming serious. Tell me what's going on. Wendy quickly explained what had happened to her father. Chloe immediately said. Sit here. Drink some tea, and I'll go find out how Ashton is doing. Chloe quickly left the office, and Wendy, alone, began to silently look at the posters on the wall. She didn't touch the tea. She was so tense that even the thought of food made her nauseous. It was more than 40 minutes before Chloe returned, looking somber. Sit down, we need to talk, Chloe said as she entered. Wendy sat down quietly, her frightened eyes fixed on Chloe. Tell me, did your dad get married again, or do you live alone? Chloe asked suddenly. He got married. A long time ago, Wendy answered, not understanding the point of the question. That's good. I was worried you were living alone. Listen, Wendy, I won't lie to you, you're grown up enough to understand. Your dad has serious injuries. Don't be scared, he'll live, but he probably won't walk again. Wendy let out a small sob, and Chloe, stroking her head, continued, don't cry. The main thing is he's alive. Everything else can be managed. Tell your dad's wife to come tomorrow to talk to the doctor. He'll explain everything in detail. I've arranged for his doctor to speak plainly, without medical jargon, so you'll know what to expect. Okay, thank you. I'll tell Paloma. Good. Now, let's go, I'll take you to your dad. He's awake and will be happy to see you. Wendy quickly got up and followed Chloe. Her hands were sweaty, and she was trembling, terrified of seeing her dad. Her dear, beloved dad, now confined to a bed. At the door of his room, Wendy took a deep breath, stood there for a couple of minutes, and then pushed it open. Hi, Dad, she said quietly as she stepped inside. She tried hard not to cry. The man lying on the bed by the window moved slightly and, carefully turning his bandaged head, said, Hi, sweetheart. It's good to see you. He tried to smile, but only a grimace of pain appeared on his face, and a tear rolled down his cheek. Daddy, don't cry, Wendy whispered. Everything will be okay. I'm here. I'm with you. The man remained silent, it was hard for him to speak. Wendy quietly sat on the chair next to her father's bed and began to tell him her news. Her voice seemed to envelop Ashton, and he peacefully fell asleep, finally finding some inner calm from having a loved one near. When Wendy returned home, she immediately decided to talk to her stepmother. Paloma, she knocked softly on the door before poking her head into the room. Are you busy? I wanted to talk to you. Paloma, who had been sitting on the bed looking at some papers, jumped and, with a withering look at Wendy, hissed. What do you think you're doing? Didn't anyone teach you to knock? But I did knock, Wendy replied, slightly embarrassed by her stepmother's reaction. Then I didn't hear it, Paloma said irritably. You should have knocked again and waited until I allowed you to enter. Is that clear? Yes, sorry. What do you want? The woman asked. I wanted to talk. I visited Dad, and... Go to the kitchen and wait for me there, Paloma interrupted. I'll come, and we'll talk. Wendy obediently left the room and sat on a chair in the kitchen, waiting for her stepmother. Paloma arrived about 10 minutes later, clearly showing her displeasure. What did you want to talk about? Wendy quickly recounted her visit to her father and asked. Could you come to the hospital with me tomorrow and talk to Dad's doctor? He'll explain everything in detail. No one wants to talk to me because they think I'm too young. Fine, I'll go with you tomorrow, Paloma said, thinking about something. In the meantime, make dinner. Grace and Shelley will be home soon, and there's nothing to eat. Wendy wanted to argue, to say she wouldn't cook, but then decided not to anger Paloma and began preparing the meal. What did the doctor say? Wendy asked, tugging at a thoughtful Paloma's arm. She hadn't been allowed to be part of the conversation, nor could she go to her father's room as he was getting in for. So she was anxious, waiting by the door. Stop pulling on me and be quiet, Paloma said. Wendy was silent for a couple of minutes but then couldn't hold back. Could you at least explain something to me? I'll explain, the woman said very quietly and angrily. They told me your dad will never walk again. Never. Do you understand? He'll be a vegetable. Although, no, a vegetable is useful, it can be grown and eaten. Your father will be of no use. He will only be able to lie down and sit. That's it. The end. He will need to be fed, given drinks, and taken care of. And who needs that? I certainly don't. Is that clear? Shocked, Wendy was silent. She didn't even know how to respond to this woman. How can you say such things? The girl asked, trembling. I thought you loved Dad and... What love? Paloma exclaimed so loudly that a passing nurse looked at her disapprovingly. Paloma lowered her tone and continued, What love are you talking about, girl? Do you even understand life? If everything were fine, we would continue living. I was happy with everything. But now I don't even know what to do. In a month or a month and a half, your dad will be discharged. And then what? I don't want to burden myself with caring for an invalid. I'm a young, healthy woman. I need to raise my daughters and live my life too. Fine. Wendy said. I'll take Dad myself, I'll care for him myself. Oh, how independent you are, Paloma said mockingly. And where will you take your dad, dear? Where else? Wendy said, looking at her stepmother in surprise. To our home. Your home. Paloma continued to sneer. Do you have a home? Wendy wanted to say something but couldn't. She just stood there, blinking, trying to understand what Paloma was getting at. I have a home, Wendy finally said after a short silence. And you live in it now. It's my parents' house, which means it's mine too. Are you sure? Paloma asked. Of course, Wendy replied confidently, not fully understanding what her stepmother was trying to achieve. Then let's go home. I'll show you something interesting, Paloma smirked. I wanted to visit Dad, Wendy said. You can visit him in the evening, Paloma said. You won't be allowed in now anyway. He has a lot of procedures. The doctor told me to come in the evening, so let's go. We'll talk at home, she finished and walked ahead. Wendy, without saying a word, followed her stepmother, eager to understand why Paloma was acting so arrogantly in claiming the house that belonged to her father as her own. As soon as they arrived home, Paloma went into the bedroom and returned a few minutes later carrying some papers. Here, look, she said, placing the documents on the table in front of Wendy. The girl quickly scanned the papers. It was a deed of gift for the house. Her father had gifted the house to Paloma about 6 months ago. This can't be true, Wendy said. It is, Paloma replied, gathering the documents. All the papers are legitimate. Your father signed and arranged everything himself, so the house is mine. But what about me? You have no right to throw me out. This is my parents' house, and It was your parents' house. Now it's mine. And I'm not planning to throw you out, at least not until you turn 18. Why would I want unnecessary trouble? Besides, it's not long to wait. You'll be 18 in 6 months. I can wait, the woman said calmly, showing no fear of Wendy. I won't leave even then, the girl said stubbornly. I have the right to live here. No, you won't. Or maybe. I don't care. I'll make your life so miserable that you'll run away yourself, Paloma said, winking at Wendy before leaving and humming to herself. Wendy lowered her head onto the table and burst into tears. She couldn't understand why her father had done this, why he had given the house to Paloma and not thought of her. She had so many questions, and she wanted to ask her father all of them. "Hi, Dad," Wendy said as she entered the room. "How are you?" "Better," the man replied quietly, trying to smile. "That's good," Wendy said with a forced smile, feeling terrible inside. "I need to talk to you." "Of course, let's talk," Ashton replied, not yet realizing what the conversation would be about. "Dad," Wendy said, gathering her courage, "why did you give the house to Paloma? Why didn't you think about me? Where am I supposed to live now?" "Wendy, don't worry," Ashton said softly. "Everything is fine. I did it for your own good, and I'll talk to Paloma. She'll transfer the documents to you. Everything will be okay." "Are you kidding? What good were you thinking about?" Wendy shouted, unable to hold back. "Who's good? Haven't you realized how deceitful and mean Paloma is? She'll never give the house back. Now we have nowhere to live." "Wendy, calm down. I understand that you and Paloma don't have the best relationship, but she's a decent woman." "You're overreacting," Ashton said. "A decent woman?" Wendy asked, breathless with indignation. "Then why doesn't this woman visit you or talk to the doctors to find out how you're doing?" "Daughter, don't exaggerate. Paloma has responsibilities, work, home, you, her daughters." "Dad, wake up," Wendy said angrily. "This decent woman you're talking about has so many responsibilities that she can't visit you. But she found the time to tell me that the house belongs to her now and that she won't let me live there peacefully." "All right," Ashton said sternly. "Calm down. Take a breath and explain what's going on. I hope you misunderstood Paloma, otherwise, I'm the biggest fool in the world." Wendy, trying not to scream or insult Paloma, told her father everything that had been happening at home. Ashton's face showed that he didn't like hearing this, but he knew he had to listen and understand how to move forward. "Dad," Wendy said, finishing her story, "explain to me why you gave her the house." "Why? I guess I was a fool. But at the time, it seemed logical to me." "What logic? Explain it to me." "Everything started about a year ago. Paloma came home unusually cheerful and excited. She asked, 'Ashton, have you thought about where Wendy will live when she gets married?' I told her that if your husband doesn't have an apartment, you would live in this house." "And what about us?" Paloma immediately asked. I explained that the house was big enough for everyone, and if necessary, we could build a second floor. Then Paloma mentioned her friend Joan, who works in the HR department at my factory. Joan had told Paloma in confidence that the factory had signed a contract with a construction company to build houses. To cut a long story short, factory workers could get a mortgage for these houses at a reduced rate. It was a very attractive offer. The only condition was that the candidate for the mortgage shouldn't own any property, and they had to sign a contract with the factory to work a certain number of years. Paloma started persuading me to take this mortgage, but I already had a house. And you decided to transfer it to her? Why not to me, but to her? Why? Don't shout, Ashton winced. I didn't expect things to turn out this way. Yes, I was a fool. But there's no need to shout. Just listen. I'm listening, Wendy sighed, feeling dizzy from the stress. I liked the idea of the mortgage. I started thinking it over, and the more I thought about it, the more I liked the idea of getting you an apartment. Of course, I considered transferring the house to you, but then Paloma intervened, and I foolishly listened to her. She painted a beautiful picture. She said you would have an apartment, her daughters would move into the house they used to live in, and she and I would stay in this house, growing flowers and waiting for grandchildren to visit. I explained that even if the house was in your name, we could still live in it peacefully. But Paloma made one final argument, and I caved in. She said you were a very beautiful girl and soon you'd leave, attracting many suitors. And if those suitors found out you had a rich dowry, an apartment and a house, they would deceive you. There are many scoundrels out there. Paloma told me this, and I gave in. Ashton sighed, realizing what he had done. And what do we do now? I don't know. I need to think, Ashton said. We could go to court and try to cancel the deed, but that's a long process. And who will take care of it? Ashton sighed again. Tell Paloma to come by. I'll try to talk to her. I will. Dad, Wendy suddenly said quietly, are you sure Paloma didn't set this whole thing up? I mean, the accident. She might have. Ashton remained silent for a few moments before answering. Daughter, don't make Paloma out to be the root of all evil. Yes, she's behaving badly now, and I didn't expect this from her. But accusing her of everything is not right, especially since my car was in good condition. If it weren't for the reckless driver who overtook me, things would have been different. Very different. When Wendy returned home, Paloma was having dinner with Grace and Shelley. Nobody invited Wendy to join them, but she didn't expect an invitation. She pulled up an empty chair and, taking a yogurt and a bun from her bag, started eating. Dad asked you to come tomorrow, she said after a while, looking at her stepmother. He wants to talk to you about the house. Why talk? The house is mine, Paloma said calmly, pouring herself some tea. But I'll go and talk to him, she smirked, which made Wendy angry. The girl jumped up from her seat, grabbed Paloma's arm, and started shouting. Are you mocking me? How dare you? You took my father's house, and now you're gloating that he's. Shut up, the woman hissed, pushing Wendy away. Wendy was sent flying across the kitchen, miraculously managing to stay on her feet. Grace and Shelley, seeing their mother's fury, quietly slipped out of the kitchen and went to their room. Wendy stood her ground, with no fear of Paloma, only anger and hurt. Well? Go ahead, hit me, she smirked. Then I'll definitely have you sued. I'll get you thrown in jail where you belong, you witch. Paloma tensed at Wendy's words. She was used to seeing Wendy as quiet and submissive, but now the girl was showing a fierce spirit, which unnerved her a bit. However, Paloma quickly regained her composure. I wouldn't advise you to be rude, girl. You're nobody in this house. You're only living here because I'm kind-hearted and pity you. But if you keep this up, I'll throw you out. Understand? No, I don't, Wendy muttered. You can't do anything to me, I'm not 18 yet. Oh, that's what you think will save you? Paloma laughed. Your 18th birthday is soon enough. I have time to file a lawsuit, and then you'll be the one leaving this house. Understand? And you seem to forget that my dad is your husband and you're supposed to take care of him. Take care of him? I am taking care of him. I'm already looking into a nursing home for the disabled. He'll be well taken care of there. But I can't provide the care he needs. I have a small salary and 2 underage daughters, Paloma sighed dramatically. I won't let you send my dad away. Wendy shouted. I'll bring him home and take care of him myself. Paloma grimaced. And where will you take him? Here. Not a chance. This is my house. It's not yours. I've explained it all to you already. This house is mine. And enough about this. I'm tired, Paloma turned to leave, but Wendy quietly and angrily said. We'll see whose house it is. I'll take you to court, but I won't give up this house so easily. Paloma turned back and walked up to Wendy, so close that Wendy could smell the food Paloma had just eaten. Very quietly, barely moving her lips, Paloma said. I'm warning you for the first and last time. If you try to ruin my life, I'll ruin yours. I won't lay a finger on you, but your dad. Believe me, I have friends at the hospital. I can arrange for them to declare that your dad has mental issues. Then I'll have him committed to a psychiatric hospital. And once he's in there, you won't be able to get him out. You'll live knowing that your dad is stuck in a mental hospital because of you. How do you like that idea? She asked, stepping back. You wouldn't dare, Wendy trembled. You wouldn't dare. Want to test me? Go ahead, Paloma smirked. I've warned you, and now it's up to you. What's more important to you, the house or having your beloved dad nearby? It's all in your hands, girl. All in your hands. Paloma left, and Wendy was ready to howl in helplessness and rage. She didn't know what to do or who to turn to. After some thought, she decided to go to Mila, the only person she could trust, who had quickly become like family to her. As the front door to the building creaked open, Mila peeked out of her apartment, ready for a confrontation with yet another careless resident. But when she saw Wendy, she clutched her chest and started speaking. You're here. I've been so worried. You could have called. I'm such an idiot, I wrote your number down wrong. I called, and some man answered. So, how are things at home? How's your dad? Why didn't you call? I'm sorry, Mila, for not calling, Wendy said. Everything's bad at home. Dad got into an accident and is in the hospital. My stepmother is kicking me out. I'm so confused, forgive me, she whispered and started crying for the first time in a long while. There, girl, Mila said, approaching Wendy and hugging her. Everything will be all right. Come in, I'll make you some tea, and you can tell me everything. Maybe we can figure something out together. Don't cry, calm down. Comforting the girl, Mila led her into her apartment. She sat her down on a chair, quickly set the kettle to boil, and settled in front of her. Now tell me what happened, from the beginning, so I can understand everything. Wendy, taking a deep breath and gathering her thoughts, began her story. She spoke slowly, trying not to leave out any details. When she finished, she looked up at Mila and quietly said, That's it. I don't know what to do. Yeah, Mila replied. Paloma has always been a piece of work. I only met her a few times, but that was enough to see what kind of person she is. But honestly, I didn't expect her to be this deceitful. Neither did I, Wendy sighed. I never liked Paloma, but I chalked it up to jealousy over my dad. At school, everyone loves and respects her. She can get along with even the toughest students, never argues with anyone, always smiles, always kind. Maybe it's time to tarnish that reputation. We could consult a lawyer to see if there's a way to get your house back. Mila, I'm scared to go to a lawyer or court. What if Paloma really does something to Dad? I'd never forgive myself, Wendy cried again. There, Mila soothed, patting Wendy's head. If you don't want to fight for the house, what other options do you have? Do you and your dad have anywhere else to go? From what I understand, Paloma won't let you bring him home after the hospital. You're starting college soon, you could live in a dorm. If necessary, you can stay with me. But what about your dad? I'm not going to college. I need to take care of Dad and work. How can I study? What? Mila slammed her hand on the table. Not going to college. Forget about it. I understand things are tough now, and Paloma is making it worse. But that's no reason to give up your education and sacrifice your life and youth. Think carefully before making a decision. What's there to think about? We have nowhere to live and little money. What should I do? When's the next bus to your town? At 5 in the evening, Wendy replied. Why? I'm coming to visit you. I want to have a word with Paloma. Maybe she won't be so bold talking to an adult. Maybe her conscience will kick in. Though I doubt it, at least we might come to some resolution. Are you sure that's the best idea? What if she gets angry and does something bad? Wendy whispered. She's really scared you, hasn't she? Don't worry, she won't do anything. She's only brave with you. I'll put her in her place, Mila smirked. Paloma saw Wendy with a strange woman through the window and tensed up. The uncertainty scared her, but managing to control her rising panic, she stepped into the hallway and waited for the visitors to enter. "Well, who have you brought to my home?" Paloma asked as soon as Wendy and the stranger stepped inside. She tried hard to keep her voice steady and seemed to succeed. "Who is this, I'm asking?" "This is Mila," Wendy simply answered. "That means nothing to me," Paloma sneered. "Too bad your memory is so poor, Paloma," Mila said, stepping forward. "I remember you as a little girl. I remember you visiting Sybil, and even then, you were a troublemaker." "Oh," Paloma brightened up, realizing who stood before her and relaxing, confident that Mila wouldn't cause any serious trouble. "You're Mila, the neighbor from my aunt's old building? The one who loves to meddle in other people's business because she has nothing better to do? Well, why have you come to my house?" "I didn't invite you." "I don't need your invitation," Mila replied. "I came with Wendy." "I want to talk to you, Paloma." "About what?" "There's nothing for us to discuss." "You're wrong. I want to talk about Wendy and her father. I want to know on what grounds you took their house and are now kicking them out. And why does that concern you? Who are you to her? Mother? Grandmother? Relative? Or are you just sticking your nose where it doesn't belong?" "Consider me her aunt, if that makes you feel better," Mila said calmly. "Blood relations aren't always a guarantee of love and mutual respect, trust me. So, are we going to talk here at the door, or are we going to sit down and discuss this?" Paloma thought for a few minutes before saying, "Fine, let's go to my room. We'll talk." "But she nodded towards Wendy, "stays here. We'll talk as adults." Wendy wanted to protest, but Mila stepped close and whispered, "Don't come with us. There's no need for you to hear this. Have some tea and rest. We'll handle this. Everything will be fine." Mila winked at Wendy and followed Paloma, ready for a difficult conversation. Mila hoped she could pressure Paloma, find the right words, and negotiate about the house. But she underestimated her opponent. As soon as they entered Paloma's room, Paloma turned to her uninvited guest and hissed, "And what do you want to talk about? Do you think you can appeal to my pity or conscience? It won't work. I earned this house by living with Ashton and Wendy. Do you think it was easy for me with those two? Ashton is a peculiar man, and I wasn't the worst stepmother to Wendy. I fed her, clothed her, never hit her, although I wanted to sometimes when she showed her character. But I held back. Do you know how long I had to persuade Ashton to transfer the house to me?" Paloma asked. "You don't know." "But I do. And I achieved my goal. As soon as he transferred the house, I wanted to divorce him, but then someone advised me that I couldn't, or he would revoke the deed. I couldn't divorce him. So I waited, endured, and saved money little by little." Mila sat silently, realizing more clearly that an amicable agreement with Paloma was unlikely, and unfortunately, Mila had no trump cards. Wendy paced back and forth, not understanding why Mila and Paloma were talking for so long. She even tried eavesdropping by pressing her ear to the door but couldn't make out much. Only fragments of sentences that didn't clarify anything. When she was at her wit's end and ready to burst into the room to find out what Mila and Paloma were whispering about for so long, the door opened by itself. Mila was the first to come out, looking sad and thoughtful. Paloma, on the other hand, seemed to be in a great mood, humming something to herself. "I have to go now," Paloma said, looking at Wendy. "You and your aunt can sit and chat." "I don't mind, I'm in a good mood today." With that, Paloma left the house, slamming the door loudly. "Well, did you manage to reach an agreement with her? Is she going to leave the house?" Wendy bombarded with questions as soon as the door closed behind her stepmother. Mila sighed heavily and, choosing her words very carefully, said, Paloma won't give up the house willingly. That's for sure. There are two options: either find a good lawyer, consult with them, and take Paloma to court, or accept the conditions this witch is offering. What is she offering? Wendy asked quietly. She's offering to transfer the apartment in the old building to you and your father, and in return, you'll leave her alone forever. By the way, she plans to file for divorce. She doesn't want to take care of your father anymore. She also mentioned something about alimony, that she wouldn't pay it. But I didn't quite understand that, to be honest. That she doesn't want to take care of Dad, I figured out immediately, but that she plans to evict us to that apartment, it's beyond my understanding. I don't want to leave my home. This house is mine. I grew up here, and I don't want to give it to some Paloma, who has done nothing good for me all these years. I can't. Wendy shouted. Then let's go find a lawyer. Of course, it will cost money, but you said your dad gave you money, let's use it for this. I don't know. Wendy immediately lost her fighting spirit. What if Paloma follows through on her threat and harms Dad? I don't think so, Mila said. Your dad is an adult man, even if he's bedridden now. You can't just throw him out, put him in a nursing home, or something like that. I don't know, I'm scared. Everything is so uncertain, Wendy said, nearly in tears. Calm down, everything will be all right, Mila said gently, trying to hold back her own tears. In general, the option Paloma suggested isn't so bad. You'll live in that apartment, you'll go to college, and while you're at school, I'll look after your father. Everything will. I don't want to live there. I don't. Wendy shouted, but, seeing Mila's pained expression, spoke more softly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you with my shouting. I just want to stay in my home. It's one thing to leave for college knowing you have a place to return to, but it's different to leave your home forever. It's scary and painful. So what are you going to do? It's up to you to decide, Mila said. I don't know yet what the right thing to do is. But let's do this. I'll go to the hospital to talk to Dad and get his advice. You go to my room, watch TV, and rest. I don't think Paloma will come back soon, and she probably won't kick you out, Wendy said. Mila nodded in agreement. She didn't want to leave Wendy alone. Mila hoped that having someone else in the house would make Paloma behave a bit more restrained. Wendy burst into the hospital with such speed that she almost knocked over a woman standing by the reception desk. Oh, sorry, Wendy mumbled, looking up. Can't you be more careful? This is a hospital, not a playground, the woman said, turning around. Wendy. Yes, Aunt Chloe. Sorry, Wendy replied. No harm done, Chloe waved her hand. Why are you rushing? Did something happen to Ashton? She asked and answered her own question. No, Ashton's fine, if something had happened, I would have been informed. So why are you running? You're trembling, and your eyes are red. Come to my office and tell me what's going on. I'm fine, Aunt Chloe, really, Wendy said, avoiding eye contact. I'd better go see my dad. You'll have time to visit him later. Now come to my office. No arguments, child, Chloe said in a stern voice. Wendy decided not to argue and silently followed her. In Chloe's office, she sat on a chair and gestured for Wendy to sit as well. Once Wendy was settled, Chloe asked. What happened? You look awful. Everything's fine, Wendy tried to smile. The smile came out sad and weary, failing to convince Chloe. Wendy, I remember you as a baby when Haley first brought you home from the hospital. You were a fussy child and only slept when you were pushed in a stroller. So your mom and I took many walks and talked a lot. She pushed you, and I watched my boys ride their bikes. Haley and I were close. We even fantasized about you marrying one of my boys, Chloe sighed. Then your mom passed away, we moved, and we lost touch. But that doesn't mean anything. I cared a lot for your mom, and you are her little copy. I want to help you if I can. Open up to me. Everything's fine, Wendy stubbornly repeated. All right, Chloe said, then suddenly asked, is your stepmother mistreating you? Wendy flinched at the question. Some internal barrier that had been holding back her emotions crumbled. Tears started flowing from Wendy's eyes. Her story was incoherent, a jumble of pain, resentment, fear, and bitterness. Everything she had been holding inside poured out to Chloe. Chloe didn't interrupt, only occasionally sighing deeply and handing Wendy tissues. When Wendy finally fell silent, Chloe stood up, walked around the office, and then sat down again, asking, why didn't you tell me this right away? I asked how you were doing. I thought your stepmother was a decent woman. I don't know her, but I haven't heard anything bad about her, and she's a teacher, right? Wendy nodded. Well, I'm going to help you. How? Wendy whispered. How? We're going to get your house back. But what if Paloma does something to Dad? Oh, God, Chloe groaned. That woman has really scared you. She won't do anything to your dad. What did she say? That she has friends in the hospital. Aha, Wendy whispered. I don't know what friends she's talking about, but in all the time I've worked here, I've gotten to know our staff pretty well. We don't have anyone here who would declare a healthy person insane for money. Don't look at me like that, Chloe smiled. We're not saints. For example, our surgeon goes on a bender every 3 months, and the whole hospital covers for him. A nurse is often late because she does private injections on the side. Everyone has little faults, but nothing serious. Our team is wonderful, so don't worry, Paloma won't do anything to your dad. Do you believe me? I believe you, Wendy said after a brief pause. I'm glad you believe me. Understand that you mustn't despair. You always have to fight to the end. Don't be afraid, we'll get through this, you have support. Thank you so much, Wendy whispered, trying to hold back another wave of tears. But you see, to file a lawsuit, we need to hire a lawyer. I don't know anything about that, and lawyers cost money. I have some money, but I don't know if it'll be enough. Don't worry about that. My eldest son has been giving legal advice for 3 years now. I'm sure Noel will help you, Chloe winked. Tell him I'll pay for his services, Wendy said. Of course, you'll pay. Once you and your dad are the rightful owners of the house again, you'll throw a big party and invite everyone, me and my husband, Noel and his fiancée, your Mila who's been supporting you so much. But for now, there's nothing to pay for. Better save your money, you'll need it for college. I'm not going to college, Wendy said quietly. Don't say that, Chloe shook her head. Your mom was a wonderful doctor, and she would be happy that you chose to go into medicine too. So don't talk nonsense, okay? Okay, Wendy nodded. Can I go see Dad now? I need to talk to him. Of course. I'll call my son and ask him to come over. Wendy ran to her father. Ashton was waiting for her, and as soon as she entered, he opened his eyes and smiled, saying, Hi. Thanks for coming. I was starting to think you'd forgotten about me. Though, I wouldn't blame you for abandoning such a fool. Dad, stop beating yourself up, Wendy said, trying to keep her voice firm. After her conversation with Chloe, Wendy felt reborn. She felt confident and hopeful that everything would turn out okay. Everything will be fine. Chloe promised to help. Wendy quickly recapped the conversation she had with Chloe. Ashton listened silently, but Wendy noticed a spark of hope in his eyes. Dad, Chloe will come to see you later to talk, Wendy concluded. By the way, I won't be here tomorrow. I'm going to find out if I got accepted. I believe you did. You're smart. Wendy sat with her father for a bit longer, and as she was about to leave, Ashton said, Sweetheart, I want to ask you something. What is it? Wendy asked, feeling a bit nervous. Nothing serious, Ashton reassured her. Just listen. At home, in the secretary desk where I keep all the papers, you know. Wendy nodded. There's a bank card in there. Take it and hide it. I'll feel more at ease. The card has the money I've been saving over the last few years. If you need money, withdraw it. Got it? I got it, Dad. Can I go now? Go. I love you. I love you too, Wendy said, leaving the room. The house greeted Wendy with silence, which made her a bit uneasy. She quickly went through the rooms. Paloma and her daughters were gone, and Mila was dozing on the bed with the TV murmuring softly. Wendy didn't wake her. She closed the door to her room and, taking advantage of the empty house, went to the secretary desk to find her father's card. Wendy rummaged through all the papers but couldn't find the piece of plastic her father had mentioned. She was so engrossed in her search that she didn't notice Paloma materialize behind her. What are you trying to find? Paloma asked menacingly near Wendy's ear. Startled, Wendy turned to face Paloma. She felt like a thief caught red-handed. I'm asking you again, Paloma said. What are you looking for? Wendy, having recovered from her initial fright, looked directly at her stepmother and said. I'm looking for Dad's card. Why? He asked me to find it, Wendy replied, keeping calm. Don't bother, it's not there, Paloma smirked. Where is it? Give me the card. You have no right, Wendy started to get angry. After receiving support from Chloe, she no longer feared her stepmother and wasn't going to hide her irritation. Calm down, girl, Paloma said mockingly. I'll get the card, just don't get worked up, she said as she walked past Wendy to her room. Go ahead. And stop taking what isn't yours, Wendy said to Paloma's back. Within 3 seconds, Paloma returned with a piece of green plastic in her hand. Here, take it, she said, throwing the card onto the table. The smooth plastic slid across the table and fell to the floor. You could have handed it to me, Wendy said, picking up the card. No way, Paloma snapped back. She was about to say more but fell silent when she saw Mila coming out of Wendy's room. What's she doing here? Who let her stay? I didn't invite her. She needs to leave. I invited her, Wendy said calmly. This is my house, and I can invite anyone I want. Besides, Dad doesn't mind. But I mind. This is my house. Mine. Don't you understand that yet? Paloma yelled, shaking with anger, struggling to keep herself under control. Wendy, on the other hand, felt perfectly calm, which only infuriated Paloma more. Just because you have some piece of paper doesn't mean anything. Dad and I will take you to court and get our house back. We'll kick you out. Got it? Paloma was momentarily taken aback by Wendy's words. She had been sure she'd intimidated her stepdaughter enough that Wendy wouldn't dare take any serious action. Listen to me, girl, Paloma shouted, grabbing Wendy's arm. Hey, hands off the kid, Mila said, approaching Paloma and swinging a towel, which had somehow ended up in her hand. The towel slapped Paloma's arm painfully, and she jumped back from Wendy, yelling. Are you crazy? Who gave you the right to hit me? Listen up, both of you. I want you, she pointed at Mila, out of here by morning. And you, she turned to Wendy, learn to behave. If you make me angry, you'll see what I'm capable of. Understand? And don't forget, I can deal with your dad quickly. With that last remark, Paloma turned and hurried to her room. Go to hell, Wendy muttered, seething inside. Calm down, Mila whispered. She'll get what she deserves. Up there, Mila glanced at the ceiling, they see everything. Don't worry. It's okay, Wendy said, calming down. Let's have a snack and go to bed. We have to get up early tomorrow. The next morning, Wendy and Mila woke up early. They wanted to catch the first bus, so after a quick breakfast, they left the house. I got in, Wendy said when Mila answered the phone. You don't sound happy, Mila noted. You've always wanted to go to medical school, so why are you sad? I'm not sad. I'm happy, really. I just don't know how to juggle everything: school, taking care of Dad, and dealing with Paloma. It's a lot, Wendy sighed. There's still time before September. Maybe things will settle down, Mila said, though not very confidently. Maybe, Wendy didn't argue. Are you free now? Could you come with me to get a phone and SIM card for Dad? He's been without one for too long. He asked Paloma to get him a phone, but she said there was no money. Of course, we can go. What happened to his old phone? I don't know. It was in the car, but after that, it disappeared. Apparently, it was supposed to be returned to Paloma, but she says she never got it. It's easier to buy a new one than to unravel that mystery. True, Mila agreed. 2 hours later, Wendy was holding a bag with a new phone for her dad and a SIM card. She had chosen the simplest model, despite the salesperson's attempts to sell her more advanced options. Wendy declined everything to avoid spending too much money. Thanks, Mila, for coming with me. I'm heading out. It'll be late by the time I get there, and I want to give Dad the phone. I'll feel better knowing he's reachable. Plus, I need to talk to Chloe to see if her son agreed to help us. Of course, go ahead. Just don't forget to call. I'll worry. If Paloma gives you trouble, let me know. I'll come over and show her what's what. Mila laughed. Thanks. I'll call, I promise. And you call too, Wendy waved goodbye. Mila raised her hand in return, murmuring a prayer under her breath. Then she suddenly remembered something and shouted. Wendy, wait. We forgot to do one thing. What is it? Wendy asked. You wanted to check your dad's card, the one Paloma gave you. You said she was acting strange. Oh, right, Wendy said. Let's go find an ATM. Dad, here you go. I bought you a phone, inserted the SIM card, and saved the numbers. Mine and Chloe's are in there. I don't know who else you might need, Wendy said. I don't need anyone else. There's no one left to talk to, Ashton replied sadly. By the way, did you get into college? I did, Wendy smiled. Good job, I'm proud of you, honey. But you seem sad. Is Paloma bothering you? That too. But there's something else. I have some bad news for you. What is it? Ashton asked, concerned. The card you told me to find has no money on it. What? None at all. None at all. It's empty. Mila and I checked today. I think Paloma took the money. When I was looking for the card yesterday, Paloma came home. She started arguing with me and then smirked when she found out I was looking for the card. Eventually, she gave it to me. She brought it from her room. Very interesting, Ashton said, furrowing his brow. Dad, did she know the PIN code? No, Ashton shook his head. Only I knew the PIN, and I told you yesterday. Although, right now, I can't be sure of anything. I thought Paloma was a normal, reasonable woman, but what she's doing now is outrageous. Give me her number, you have it, right? Wendy nodded. I'll call that scoundrel right now and tell her exactly what I think of her. 1, 2, 3, Ashton counted the rings in his head. Hello. Paloma's wary voice cut in on the 4th ring. Don't just breathe. Hello, she repeated, getting nervous. Hi, honey, Ashton said in a mockingly cheerful tone. How are you? Why haven't you visited your husband? I haven't visited because I don't have time, she replied irritably. And soon, you won't be my husband anymore. I'm filing for divorce. Wonderful news, Ashton smirked. But I'm calling for another reason. Tell me, dear Paloma, why did you take money from my card? Who gave you that right? I didn't take anything, she quickly responded. It must have been your precious Wendy, and she's blaming me. You should ask your daughter, she said with a sneer. Unfortunately, that won't work. Wendy checked the card with Mila, so she has a witness. Your daughter could have taken the money earlier and set it all up. You think Wendy would do that? Ashton asked, winking at Wendy, who was sitting next to him, listening to the conversation. Of course she would. She took the money and now she's pinning it on me. Well, in that case, we'll need to involve the police, Ashton said. Without evidence, I can't accuse my daughter. Let the professionals find the thief. Alright, Paloma, bye for now. I'll be calling the police. No, wait, Paloma suddenly screamed. What is it? Do you have something to confess? Ashton was enjoying himself. Yes. Paloma shouted into the phone. I took the money. I did. I took it because I have a right to it. You saved that money from the family budget, depriving me and my girls. You. Stop. Now be quiet. Ashton yelled so loudly that Wendy jumped in her seat. That money has nothing to do with the family budget. We agreed on the amount I should give for household expenses, and I gave it. Quiet, he shouted again as he heard Paloma's protests on the other end. When the girls needed clothes or there were unexpected purchases, I was never stingy. Not for anyone. The money you stole was my personal savings. I worked overtime to earn extra and save it for my daughter. So I'm telling you seriously, if you don't bring the money back today, I'm filing a police report. Do you understand? Ashton, Paloma whined through the phone, can we do it tomorrow? It's too late now, and I can't go out with that kind of money. I don't care. I've said what I've said. Oh, Ashton. Please. No, Ashton replied firmly, but Paloma kept pleading. After about 5 minutes of back and forth, Ashton gave in. Fine. You have until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. If you don't bring the money, it's on you. I'll bring it all. Thank you, Ashton, thank you. Paloma said and hung up. She agreed and confessed pretty quickly, Wendy said. She was probably scared I'd report her to the police and she'd be charged with theft. Maybe. Dad, where will you keep the money? You can't keep it at the hospital, right? Of course not. I'll ask Chloe to take it and deposit it in the bank. Ashton was about to say more, but there was a knock at the door. Come in, he called out. The door swung open, and Chloe walked in. Oh, everyone's here. I just came to visit the patient and discuss some things. We have something to tell you too, father and daughter said in unison. Go ahead, tell me. Ashton quickly recounted the story of the theft and how Paloma had promised to return the money. You were too quick with that call, Chloe sighed. You could have scared Paloma a bit more and made her return the house. It's not exactly nice, but with someone like your wife, you have to be tough. You're right. I acted out of anger, Ashton admitted. Don't worry. She hasn't returned the money yet. And whether she will is still a big question. True, Ashton said, looking upset. He then started saying goodbye to Wendy, who was in a hurry to get home. Wendy walked home with an uneasy feeling. She had reasons for it, of course, and tried to calm herself down. At one point, she felt so panicked that she grabbed her phone to call Mila but then changed her mind. By the time Wendy reached home, she had almost calmed down. After standing by the gate for a few minutes, enjoying the summer air, she confidently opened the door. The house was quiet. Neither Paloma nor Shelley were in sight, only a sad-looking Grace was sitting at the kitchen table. Hi, Grace said cheerfully when she saw Wendy. Want some dinner? Hi, yeah, I do, Wendy replied, a bit taken aback. Wendy liked Grace. She was different from her mother and sister, kind and warm-hearted. When Paloma first moved in with Ashton and brought her daughters, Wendy quickly became friends with Grace. They played, drew, and talked together. But Shelley didn't like their friendship. The older sister quickly convinced the younger one to start teasing and bullying Wendy. Wendy naturally felt sad and stopped trying to interact with Grace, but she still had warm feelings towards her. So now, when Grace herself wanted to talk, Wendy was friendly. "Then wash your hands and sit down," Grace said. Wendy nodded and, after quickly freshening up, sat at the table. "Is no one else home?" Wendy asked, eating pasta. "No," Grace shook her head. "Mom went out somewhere. She was yelling, cursing, running around, making noise with the dishes, and left after shouting at me to stay home." "I see. Where's Shelley?" "I haven't seen her for a while." "You don't know?" Grace asked in surprise. "Know what?" "Shelley ran away. She hasn't been home for 2 days. That's why Mom is freaking out. She already has some problems, and now Shelley pulls this stunt," Grace said. Wendy wanted to make a sarcastic comment about Paloma's problems but held back, not wanting to upset Grace, who was apparently unaware of her mother's schemes. "Where did she run off to?" Wendy asked. "I don't know where, but I know with whom." "With Ethan. Mom forbade them from seeing each other. She kept telling Shelley she needed to find a rich husband so she wouldn't have to scrape by like Mom. But Shelley really loves Ethan, and he loves her. So, Shelley ran away, and Mom is furious." "Wow," Wendy said. The girls chatted a bit more. Grace, feeling very shy, asked Wendy about Ashton's health and if Wendy had gotten into college. Grace really wanted to talk, but she felt extremely awkward, remembering how she had bullied Wendy. "It was nice talking," Wendy said with a smile, "but it's time to sleep. I'm really tired today." "Time for bed," Grace agreed, suddenly looking sad. Wendy went to her room but couldn't sleep. She lay there, listening to the sounds of the house. At some point, fear gripped her, and following some inexplicable impulse, she decided to barricade the door. With considerable effort, Wendy pushed a small dresser against the door. It was a mediocre defense, but it gave her peace of mind, knowing that no one could enter her room uninvited. The noise from an intruder would wake her up. Settling more comfortably in bed, Wendy stared at the ceiling. She couldn't sleep, her mind racing with thoughts. Lost in her thoughts, she didn't notice when she dozed off. But she woke up at some point to a noise in the house. Listening carefully, Wendy realized Paloma was arguing loudly with someone. Since she didn't hear a second voice, she guessed her stepmother was scolding someone over the phone. Soon the voice faded, and in the quiet of the night, Wendy heard someone approach her room door. Someone stood there for a moment, shuffled a bit, then left. Wendy let out a quiet breath. She had been scared and now lay trembling all over. Wendy silently lay in the darkness, only managing to drift off to sleep as dawn broke. But she didn't get much rest. Just as she fell asleep, her phone rang. With trembling hands, Wendy grabbed the receiver. "Hello," she said, her voice shaking. "Hi, Wendy," she heard Chloe's anxious voice. "I'm sorry to wake you, but it's urgent. Your father is in intensive care. Come to the hospital, we need to talk. And try to leave the house without anyone seeing you." "Okay," Wendy replied, tears in her voice. "Is my dad, is he alive?" "He's alive," Chloe answered. "Wendy, all questions at the hospital. Come quickly, I'll be waiting." Wendy barely remembered how she got to the hospital. Her thoughts were jumbled, and her arms and legs were shaking. To avoid being seen leaving the house, she climbed out the window. As she approached the hospital, she saw Chloe pacing nervously on the steps. "What happened to my dad? How is he? What's going on?" Wendy bombarded Chloe with questions as she ran up to her. "Calm down. Your dad is stable now, but we need to figure out what happened." "What happened?" Wendy whispered. "He was poisoned," Chloe said very quietly. "Let's go inside, the police are here. We need to talk." "Talk? Police? Please explain what's going on, Wendy pleaded. Someone tried to poison your father. After you left last night, Ashton and I talked for a bit, and then a nurse rushed in. They had brought in a patient by ambulance, and I had to attend to her. I was busy for about 3 hours and then decided to check on your father. Honestly, I don't even know why I checked on him, it felt like something pushed me. I entered his room and found Ashton looking pale. I even thought he wasn't breathing, but then I found his pulse and immediately called for the nurse and other doctors. Long story short, if I hadn't gone in when I did, your father wouldn't be alive right now. Chloe shivered as she spoke. Despite years of being a doctor, she had never gotten used to death and didn't want to. She believed that becoming desensitized meant losing one's humanity. Why do you think he was poisoned? Maybe he ate something bad in the cafeteria. In that case, the whole hospital would be sick. And his poisoning is unusual. It wasn't food, it was pills. Maybe he was given too many pills and took them all. Wendy suggested. Don't be ridiculous, Chloe shook her head. The nurses give exactly the prescribed amount of medication. We are very strict about that. Anyway, let's not speculate. Let's go inside. There's a police officer in the head nurse's office who wants to talk to you. Me? Am I a suspect? Wendy asked quietly. A suspect? No, of course not. You were just the last person to see Ashton, besides me. They want to talk to everyone. Okay, let's go, Wendy sighed. She wasn't afraid of the police, just very worried. She was anxious about her father and about herself, not knowing what lay ahead. May I come in? Chloe asked, poking her head into the head nurse's office. Yes, come in, the man in uniform said, looking up from some notes. Hello, Wendy said modestly as she entered the office. Hello, the policeman replied, looking directly at her. My name is Austin Perry. You must be Wendy. Yes, she nodded. Good. Very good, the man said, jotting something down in his notebook. Do you mind if we talk for a bit about yesterday? I don't mind, Wendy whispered. Great. Don't be afraid, Austin smiled, I don't bite. I'm here to help. I understand. Good. Now, can you tell me how your day went yesterday? Please be detailed. Wendy, trying not to leave anything out, told the policeman about her day. She talked about college, the empty card, her visit to her dad, and the call to Paloma. The card and the call particularly interested Austin, so he asked many questions that seemed repetitive to Wendy. Still, she patiently answered them, repeating the same information over and over. Now, please tell me, did you bring anything to your father yesterday? Yes. A phone and a SIM card, Wendy replied. What about food? Austin clarified. No. I didn't have time to buy anything. Plus, my dad asked not to be overloaded with food. He's eating very little right now, so I didn't bring anything. Are you sure? Maybe juice, water, broth? Anything? I didn't bring anything, Wendy repeated. Austin sighed heavily. You see, Wendy, here's the thing, he sighed again, besides you, your father had no other visitors yesterday. Well, Chloe did check in, but she didn't bring him anything either. So the question is, how did Ashton get poisoned? I don't know, Wendy said. Maybe he did have someone else visit. After me? The nurse swears she didn't let anyone in. You left late, visiting hours were over, Austin said, lost in thought. He was about to say more when a young man, presumably his colleague, entered the office. Austin, can I see you for a minute? Yes, of course, I'll be right there, Austin replied. He looked at Wendy and Chloe and said, Excuse me, ladies, I need to step out for a moment. I'll be back soon. Austin was gone for about 10 minutes before he returned, leading a tearful nurse, Mindy, and holding a container. Have you ever seen this before? Austin asked, setting the item, which turned out to be a thermos, in front of Wendy. Wendy examined it for a few minutes, then shrugged and said, "We have a thermos at home that looks like this. But I can't say for sure if this is ours. There are no unique markings or drawings on it." "I see," Austin said. "Do you know where my colleague found this thermos?" he asked, looking around at everyone present. "No," Wendy, Chloe, and the trembling Mindy all answered. "I'll explain. The thermos was found in Ashton's room, under the bed. No one noticed it at first, but during a thorough examination, my partner spotted it." The man paused and then turned to Wendy. "Did you bring anything to your father in a thermos?" "I told you, I didn't bring anything yesterday," Wendy answered, trying to stay calm. "Fine, then a question for you, Mindy. Who came to visit the patient in room 302 last evening?" "No one," the nurse stammered, her eyes darting around as if seeking support. "You're lying," Austin said, slamming his hand on the table. "If no one was there, where did the thermos come from?" "Where, I ask you?" "She brought it," Mindy said, nodding towards Wendy. "I remember her. She stayed at the hospital for a long time and left almost last among the visitors." "It wasn't her," the policeman shook his head. "Even if we assume the girl is lying and she did bring something in the thermos, Chloe should have seen it since she was in the room." "But Chloe says there was no thermos." "Right?" he asked, looking at Chloe. "Right," she nodded. "Furthermore, let's assume the daughter poisoned her father before Chloe came in, but then the timing doesn't add up. The man should have fallen ill earlier. So, no matter how you look at it, someone was with the patient in the evening." "But who?" Austin stared intently at the nurse. "No one was there," Mindy insisted. "Maybe the thermos has been lying there for a long time, and why are you bothering me?" "I'm telling you, no one was there." "Leave me alone," she cried out. "I won't leave you alone. You're lying and you don't even realize that by doing so, you're protecting a criminal. The thermos couldn't have been lying in the room for a long time. Your janitor is praised as a very responsible worker. The floor under the bed is clean, which means it was washed. It's impossible to wash the floor without noticing the thermos. So, Mindy, I strongly recommend you tell us who you let visit the patient after hours. Otherwise, I'll suspect that you poisoned Ashton." "We just need to find out why," the policeman said sternly. "Me? What are you saying? I saw Ashton for the first time when he was brought to the hospital. I'll tell you everything, just promise I won't get into trouble." "Go ahead," Austin nodded approvingly, "whether you'll be in trouble depends on your story." Mindy sighed a couple of times, sniffled, and began to confess. "There weren't many visitors yesterday. Most of them left before 6. The ones who stayed the longest were her," Mindy nodded at Wendy, "and an old woman who visits her husband. When the girl and the old woman left, I locked the door and got busy with my duties. An hour later, I really wanted to smoke. According to the rules, I should have gone to the courtyard, but I didn't want to take the long way around, so I quickly opened the main entrance and stepped out onto the porch. As soon as I finished smoking, a woman approached me and asked to be let in. She said she wanted to visit her husband. I told her that visiting hours were over and to come back tomorrow. But she started whining that she had work and couldn't make it during visiting hours. She begged and begged, so I felt sorry for her," Mindy admitted, blushing. "For free?" Austin asked. "She gave me $50, Mindy blushed even more. "And don't lecture me about taking the money. My salary is small, I have a little daughter, and my husband is in and out of work. I needed the money. When the woman offered it, I agreed. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I didn't know she would poison her husband. I understand. You're a good person, you didn't mean any harm," the policeman said. "Now, tell us, how long was the woman in the hospital, and what did she look like?" "She was there for about 40 minutes. Honestly, I got busy and kind of forgot about her. A patient came to my station complaining about blood pressure. I got caught up with him and lost track of time. When I remembered, I went to check if the visitor had left. She was just coming out of the room, so I walked her to the exit and locked the door. You didn't enter Ashton's room after the visitor left? No. Why? I met the visitor at the door and escorted her out, Mindy replied. Alright, what did the woman look like? Mindy thought for a moment and then said. Just ordinary. Like any local woman. She wore a sundress and sandals. Her hair was red, shoulder length. That's not Paloma, Wendy suddenly said. Her hair isn't red. Maybe it was a wig? Austin mused, then looked at Mindy. Could it have been a wig? Possibly. I didn't look closely. Although, yes, it was likely a wig. The hair looked strange, and I couldn't figure out why it bothered me until you mentioned a wig. And why don't you just ask Ashton who visited him? Why are you tormenting me? I had no idea this would happen. The victim is in intensive care, didn't you know? I know, Mindy said, now regretting her slip of the tongue. Do you have a photo of your stepmother? Austin asked Wendy. I'm not sure, Wendy said thoughtfully, pulling out her phone and searching. After a couple of minutes, Wendy found a few photos of Paloma and handed the phone to Austin. Here. This is Paloma. Good, good, the man muttered, scrutinizing the photo. He turned the screen toward Mindy and asked. Is this the woman who visited yesterday? Mindy silently examined the photo while Austin almost bounced in his chair with impatience. Look, there are more pictures, he said, scrolling through the photos. 1, 2, 3. That's her. It's definitely her, Mindy suddenly shouted, pointing at the screen. I recognize her. Wendy and Chloe exhaled quietly, and Austin slammed his hand on the table, dialing a number on his phone and yelling into the receiver. Get over here and bring the team. We're going to arrest the suspect. Paloma, I'm asking you again, why did you want to poison your husband? Austin asked with a heavy sigh, clearly exhausted by this stubborn woman. And I keep telling you, I didn't want to and didn't poison anyone. Ashton is my husband, and I love him. Alright, the policeman said patiently. Then tell us why you visited the hospital yesterday. I didn't visit, Paloma insisted. That's ridiculous. Austin yelled, slamming the table, then regained his composure and spoke more quietly. The nurse identified you. Even without the red wig, she recognized you. And when we asked you to wear the wig as an experiment, she had no doubts. Moreover, the sundress you wore yesterday was found in your closet. Denying it is pointless. Fine, I was at the hospital yesterday. Are you happy now? Paloma growled. Why didn't you say so from the beginning? Why did you waste so much time denying it? First, my husband and I had a very personal conversation. Second, if you knew I was at the hospital, you'd blame everything on me right away. Everything? Austin asked. Yes. Like now, you're trying to accuse me of poisoning. I know you cops, always looking for someone to blame, Paloma sighed. Well, the man replied calmly, the facts speak for themselves. Alright, if you don't want to talk about the poisoning, let's discuss the theft. You stole money from your husband. Why did you commit this crime? I didn't steal anything. That money is as much mine as his. He saved it while living with me, so I have a right to it. You don't. And I suspect that it was over the money that you decided to poison him. Am I right? No. I didn't poison anyone. I was at the hospital, but I didn't poison him. We had a peaceful conversation, and I left. Really? Does this look familiar? Austin pulled a thermos out of his desk. Paloma glanced at the item and shrugged. What do you want me to say? It's an ordinary thermos with no distinctive marks, so it could belong to anyone. Of course, but you brought this thermos to the victim's room. And once the doctors let me speak to your husband, everything will become clear. So, think carefully, Paloma. If you have something to tell me, speak up now. A full confession has never harmed anyone, Austin said. Paloma fell silent, lost in thought. The man, not waiting for an answer, rose from his seat and said, "If you don't want to talk, fine. But remember, you're only making things worse for yourself." "Wait. I'll tell you everything," Paloma said quietly. "But it's not what you think. I really didn't want to poison Ashton." "Oh. Then what did you want?" "I just wanted to talk to him. He called me yesterday, demanding that I return the money to him. But I didn't want to give it all back. I believe it's not just his money, but mine too. So I went to the hospital to tell Ashton that I would only return part of the sum and keep the rest for myself. I have every right to do that." "Did Ashton agree to your proposal?" "No. He started yelling, calling me a thief and insisting I return everything." "And what did you expect when you took that money? Did you think no one would find out?" "I knew Ashton would find out about the theft eventually, but not right away. I was sure that by the time he did, I would have had time to leave with my daughters somewhere. We could have made it, except my eldest daughter ran off with her scumbag boyfriend." Paloma grimaced and added, "It's because of Shelley that I'm sitting here now. If she had listened to me, we would have been at the seaside by now." "Do you think your husband wouldn't have reported the theft if he found out later?" Austin asked. "I don't know. Maybe he would have," Paloma said thoughtfully. "But I didn't care. I wanted to take the risk. I wanted to break free from this town, see a different life. You have no idea how tired I am of everything," she suddenly cried out. "What are you tired of?" Austin cautiously asked, trying not to scare off Paloma's revelations. "Of my stupid life. My first husband was a drunkard whom I kicked out when he started hitting me. Then I lived alone with my girls, counting pennies, just surviving. When I met Ashton, I thought finally I had found happiness. Sure, I never loved him, but I treated him well. But he turned out difficult too, and Wendy constantly annoyed me. Teaching at the school was also infuriating. I had to smile at everyone, adjust to everyone's needs. Each year, the job became harder. The kids were rude, the parents shouted. I'm just so tired, exhausted." Paloma burst out crying. Austin silently stood up, poured a glass of water, and handed it to her. Paloma drank it, wiped her lips with the back of her hand, and continued speaking. "I've had enough of it all. I wanted to take a risk, change my life. So I decided. Honestly, when Ashton had the accident, I was in shock, imagining I'd have to care for a disabled person for the rest of my life. Then I thought I had to act. I decided to withdraw money from my husband's card. His phone was with me, so Ashton couldn't find out about the missing money. I wanted to leave. Take my daughters and leave. I didn't plan how we'd live afterward, the main thing was to leave this town, change something." Paloma fell silent, and Austin asked the main question. "Why did you poison your husband?" Paloma was silent, and the man continued speaking. "Don't lie to me. You planned the poisoning in advance. You wore that wig, took the thermos with poison. Why? Where did such cruelty come from?" "There's no cruelty, really. I didn't plan to poison him. Yes, I wore that stupid wig, took the thermos, but I didn't think it would turn out like this." "How did you think it would go?" "I wanted to negotiate nicely, for half the amount. But Ashton insisted I return all the money, and he wanted to revoke the house gift. I got really angry. Somehow I persuaded him to drink the broth I brought in the thermos. Ashton resisted at first, then gave in and drank a little. But honestly, I didn't know he would get so sick. I didn't want that. I found a recipe online, supposed to cause only mild discomfort, vomiting, weakness, diarrhea. But maybe Ashton's health was weaker than I thought, so it all worked like that. I just wanted him to feel unwell for a while, forget about the money. I needed just a couple of days to get away, Paloma said and started crying. I didn't want to poison or kill him. It was just a joke. Honestly, just a joke. Well, quite a sense of humor you have. Next time, think with your head before joking. And this joke could land you in serious trouble, Austin said with a sigh. At some point, he even felt sorry for Paloma, but he quickly dismissed that feeling. He knew criminals could be very convincing and liked to play on sympathy. Dad, why did you drink from the thermos Paloma brought? You could have died. Wendy gently stroked her father's hand, asking. She managed to persuade the doctor to let her in briefly to see her dad, and now she wanted to tell him so much, to ask so much. I'm such an idiot, I drank what Paloma brought. She kept persuading me, and I gave in. Honestly, I never imagined she was capable of such a thing. Sure, she really didn't want to give the money back, she offered to split it evenly. But when I said I needed the whole amount, she started yelling, then said she'd return all the money and asked me to drink the broth. So I did. I wanted to do something nice for her, she tried, cooking and all. Oh, fool, fool, Ashton fell silent, and Wendy, still stroking his hand, asked. And you weren't at all suspicious when she came in wearing a wig? Of course, I was suspicious. When she entered the room, I didn't immediately recognize her. I didn't expect to see her. Naturally, I asked what all this masquerade was about. Paloma said she was following Shelley, that her daughter was up to her antics again and had run off with Ethan, and Paloma wanted to find her and bring her home. And you believed her? Yes. Paloma and Shelley have had a long-standing conflict over Ethan. Shelley fell in love, and Paloma couldn't accept her daughter's choice. She was willing to do anything to break them up. So I completely believed in her surveillance, Ashton said. Oh, Dad. You're supposed to be a grown man, but you're so trusting, Wendy said. I'm not trusting, I'm just stupid, idiotic, a moron, Ashton said angrily. He wanted to say more, but the door to the room opened, and the doctor entered. That's it. Visiting time is over. The patient is still too weak, he needs rest. Can I have just 5 more minutes? Wendy pleaded. No, absolutely not, the doctor said sternly. Wendy nodded silently, kissed her father on the cheek, and left the room. Wendy walked slowly through her hometown, squinting in the bright sunlight. Her first year at college was behind her. It had been tough studying, and she worried about her father, who had fallen into deep depression after being discharged from the hospital. He refused food and water, just lay at home, staring at the wall. Even the fact that Noel, Chloe's son, easily annulled the gift deed, and the house became Ashton's property again, didn't bring him joy. The money taken from Paloma didn't bring him peace of mind either. He blamed himself for his gullibility and stupidity. Seeing her father's condition, Wendy wanted to drop out of college, but 2 kind fairies, Chloe and Mila, insisted that she not give up and keep studying. After Ashton was discharged from the hospital, Mila moved into his house and took over the household chores. The woman's responsibilities increased significantly compared to what she did living in her small apartment. But surprisingly, she didn't complain. Mila seemed to bloom. She became lively and industrious. The feeling of being needed and useful gave her a second youth, and for the first time in many years, she felt happy again. But not only caring for Ashton fell on Mila's shoulders. There was also Grace, Paloma's daughter. When the girl found out about her mother's actions, Grace had a breakdown. She begged Ashton for forgiveness and pleaded not to be sent to an orphanage. Grace knelt before Wendy, apologizing for all the offenses and rudeness. Wendy felt deeply sorry for Grace, and at a family council attended by Mila, Wendy, and Ashton, they decided to let Grace live with them. Children aren't responsible for their parents' actions, right? Mila said, looking at Wendy and Ashton. Ashton shrugged, showing his indifference, while Wendy nodded in agreement with Mila's words. Seeing support from Wendy, Mila continued, it wouldn't be right to kick Grace out. We'd be no better than her mother. As for Shelley, Paloma's older daughter, nothing was known. After she ran away with Ethan, her trail was lost. Despite a missing person report filed with the police, there was no information on Shelley's whereabouts. Wendy pushed open the gate to the family home and heard voices coming from the backyard. She hurried there. Mila, Grace, and Ashton were already seated at a large table, with Ashton in a wheelchair with a laptop on his lap. Chloe and her husband were grilling barbecue a short distance away. "Oh, Wendy's here," Mila said happily, standing up. "Come sit at the table. Everything's ready. I'll just bring the homemade pie, and we'll eat." "Let me bring it," Grace jumped up from her seat. "I'll be quick." "Good girl," Mila sighed, watching her go. It's a shame her mother turned out to be such a witch, but oh well. We'll raise Grace into a good person. Right, Ashton? Huh? What? Oh, my daughter's here. Ashton exclaimed, looking at Wendy. Good grief. Mila threw up her hands. The daughter's been here a while, and he only just noticed. Can you believe it? She said to Wendy. Before, he was lying around, not wanting anything, and now he's glued to his computer, not noticing a thing. I'm working, Ashton said, tapping the laptop cover. And don't nag, Mila. You said I needed to develop, so I'm developing. Develop all you want, just don't forget about us. Wendy listened silently to her father and Mila's conversation and smiled. She knew her dad had been working online for the past few months. He had written term papers in the spring and now had learned several programs and taken an interest in creating websites. Wendy didn't delve into exactly what her father was doing, she was just happy that he was working and finally smiling. Here's the pie, Grace said, placing a large plate on the table. Let's sit down, Mila said and called out, Chloe, Aaron, come to the table. Chloe and her husband approached the table, carrying the finished barbecue. Everyone settled around the table, and Ashton, filling his glass, said, To family. To family, echoed everyone else, raising their glasses to toast. At that moment, Wendy was utterly happy, knowing that this whole ordeal could have ended much more tragically. Meanwhile, Paloma, sitting in her damp cell, cursed her fate and her ex-husband and Wendy, sincerely believing that these two had ruined her life. If not for them, everything could have turned out so differently. Paloma never understood that she alone was to blame for her greed. Perhaps she never would. Time would tell.